I'm very obsessed with retention rates, and now it would be great in the last maybe 6 to 7 years of any person, if that person would stay in one company more than 3 years, and then that company was performing. Because like I think that's a very good indication of they know what good looks like because the company was growing. I typically recommend for any leadership hire is that the founder needs to spare. Maybe the founders collectively spare minimum 10 hours with the candidate before to be able to say that,
10 hours?
Yeah.
Wow.
If you make the hiring decision based on fear of, if I don't make the hire, I would lose a year. If I don't make the hire, like the function would vary. But just like lots of, I would say, from the negative and fear teams versus the conviction hire, it's more like, I trust this person to do the best job. I trust this person. I'm confident enough that this person will take us from here to there.
And we gave someone the benefit of the doubt. Unfortunately, it didn't work out from a culture perspective, but it cost us 10 months. 10 months of our growth. Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Leaders in Talent podcast. And today I have Puren Ucar on the podcast. Puren is a talent advisor with over a decade of experience working as a talent partner in VC funds like Earlybird. And currently she's working as an advisor to founders and VC funds. Puren, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Adriaan, really, really great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I think that would be a very enjoyable podcast. I find yourself always very authentic in a way of your, communication and etc. And I think we have done very good work together. So I feel very excited to be here.
Yeah, so good. Feels a little bit full circle, right? Because I remember we probably got introduced 6-7 years ago, and we actually, right? And we worked for some of your portfolio companies. And when I saw that you're now working as an independent advisor, right? I was like, Puren, let's talk. Let's hear a little bit more about your journey and also looking back, but also what excites you about the future.
That's great. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Hey, Puren, and we might hear a little bit of background noise on your side because you have a new addition to the family. Show our listeners who the new addition is.
This sound in advance, but I have this small kitten. His name is Pom Pom. We find it from the street, so he needs to be near me, otherwise he cries. So sorry about the sound.
So for our listeners that do not have any visual, Puren just showed a 1-week-old baby kitten. This is the cutest thing ever. So that's that Pom Pom is sitting on Puren's lap because otherwise we're going to be hearing crying all the time. So amazing. Welcome to the podcast, Pom Pom.
Are you facing market volatility, need to hire quickly, or have a team that sits idle? Meet Matcher, your flexible recruitment and sourcing partner. Scale your recruitment capacity up or down without compromising on quality. Trusted by Booking.com, Miro, Heineken, Grammarly, and Deal, Matcher is the RPO disruptor making waves in Europe and the US. For scale-ups and corporates, Matcher covers engineering, go-to-market, and G&A roles. Visit Matcher.io to see how we can support you. That's MATCHR.io.
Let's dive in, right? So take us back to your time at Earlybird. Share a little bit more about what Earlybird is, a venture capital funds, and what does it mean to be a head of talent advisory at a VC fund?
Maybe starting from the ladder, I think it varies. The answer of this question varies a lot. Even though the fund philosophy could be similar, let's say the fund philosophy could be early stage investing, seed series A across Europe, but it's really depending on the partner's vision and how they prioritize talent and who they come on board to execute that or build out that function. I think it varies a lot. So I think it's a bit hard to address the second question, but I can maybe address what does that mean to me and what I do at Earlybird, if it makes sense. For me, so Earlybird, early stage VC fund that investing in Series A companies, and I think more. I stayed there for like 7 years. And my role had evolved a lot, because like once there's an investment, once I joined, there was only like 15 companies. Then I left, it was more than 50. So the playbook and how we interact with the founders evolve a lot. I can double click on here, but let me first stop if you have any follow up.
No, like and be as colorful as you can be, right? Because speaking to different talent leaders, I know there's this general curiosity of working as a talent advisor for a venture capital fund. For many talent leaders, this sounds like an amazing next step in their career. But I also know from speaking to other talent leaders that have been at venture capital funds, it's actually quite a difficult role, because there's no like written playbook. Like, what are your KPIs? Like, how is success measured? How do you deal with, the investment side of the business versus the people talent leadership side of the business? So give us a little bit more color of what your role entitled, and how you were able to like be so impactful for the almost 8 years, I think, that you were at Earlybird.
Yeah. Well, you positioned well. I think the product market fit for the VC talent role is very hard to find, and I think it's not really there yet for every VC. But in my journey, product market fit literally changed once in every 2 to 3 years. So I would say the first couple of years it was more around. I'm coming from an exec search background, so in the first couple of years it was very hands-on, helping founders to build out their core leadership team, more like first leadership hirings, head of directors, etc. And also in parallel, collecting lots of recognized behavioral patterns and frameworks, like what are the challenges that the founder face on leadership hires, what roles seems to be, let's say, harder to fill compared to other roles across the leadership team. What else? It's just, how to navigate those challenges with the founders. How should you communicate? What should you communicate? What you should not be communicated, etc. It's just like, I think there are lots of frameworks that I was able to build based on these recognized behavioral patterns that I collect in those 2 years, being very hands-on on helping founders to build out their core leadership team. So I guess that's the first 2 years. Then the next 2 to 3 years, it is more around, once we know what good looks like, once we know, because we've done lots of leadership hiring, some of them worked well, some of them did not work out. So it just also enabled us to build frameworks of what does successful high-performing leader mean in early stage scaling company. And once that we have that framework, I guess that the second 2 to 3 years is more around making it scale. So work through the right exec search firms, work through the right recruitment agencies, right recruiters, so that we can literally scale that way of working, and making sure that we have the right partners who understand our way of working. In that, I would say that 2 to 3 years. I guess that's the second tenure. And then the last 2 to 3 years, there is also a new work around the new product market fit is around now that we have the ecosystem, like right recruiters, right partners, we know what good looks like. But now this was the time around, we had, I think, more than 40 portfolio companies. So it was now more around how can we scale internally. I've also built out lots of playbooks on how many people do you need at what stage, what are the challenges, like what are the business challenges that you'll see as a result, so that you needs to make that hiring, etc. So now that we build a team around me. So I guess before I left, I had a team of 5, including myself, and that was I was I had actually one of the largest VC talent teams.
It's a pretty large. Hey, and because typically what I've seen with other venture capital funds, it's usually one head of talent or talent people partner, depending on the title, that's responsible for everything. So it's a quite broad role. What was the philosophy of having a larger team, and like how hands-on were you during that time, and like what are maybe some of the KPIs that you had for your team?
I guess one of the reasoning behind that we had this big team is that I think it was after the third year of my time as a VC talent, it was very obvious the outcome impact that we built. Like, founders were very happy. We built out like very strong leadership team within those founders. These companies turned out to get lots of good revenue, good funding, etc. It's just like it was very visible, and then the founders were sharing those feedback with the GPs. So it was very easy for me to double click and then scale the team. How hands-on I am, I think it's also varied. In the first 1 year, again, it was very hands-on. because like I had lots of internal resources, but it's like very easy for me to read because I build it for myself. But now it's about other people to use it. So again, I need to be like more thoughtful around how to make it easy to read, easy to understand, how the other new talent people could be trained by it, etc. So I guess that part was like still on the building phase, and also I guess hands-on around. We had a great team. They're all there still, so I really admire the talent people that I had there. I recruited there, I guess also the first years was also more around helping them to manage the founder psychology, because like you sit on the investor side, but you provide some help, but you are not a provider. It's just like, I guess, the dynamics of the relationship, that you need to be very thoughtful of what you need to communicate and what you should just wait. So I guess this has come a bit of an experience. So I think that there was this part that I was instilling a lot to the team, I would say.
And for your team, right? So what were some of the KPIs or objectives for your team?
Well, what we were looking at, but it was hard for us to say this is the KPI. Like we look at lots of metrics, but in the end, there is not one metric for us to say for this to increase or decrease, we are successful or unsuccessful. We were just like following lots of metrics to see where we are at. We look at founder NPS for sure, like we ask feedback from the founder. The other thing is we look at the roles that we help, like per year, how many exec level or non-exec level roles that we have founders. Do they work with any recruiters? Be happy with the performance of the recruiters, etc. Just like following up those metrics. What else? We also look at the metric of the roles that we involved, whether the place candidate stayed more than 2 years. So we were also trying to track that. Yeah, I guess these are the main ones. Like we also track time to hire, time to fill, even placement, but like with the COVID, if we would give ourselves the KPI of the placement, it's kind of for us the incentives a bit skewed, because we care about whether there is a great placement. We don't care about whether there's a placement or not. So just we look at those metrics, but I guess for the sake of looking at it, let's say,
Interesting. So actually not too different than what you would see in an internal team, except that the urgency, right, is different, right? It's really quality focused, the NPS, if the hire is still in their seat after 2 years, and then how that process was run. Interesting. Hey, and you mentioned something interesting early on. You said in your second kind of like stint, if you have the section 1, executive search, section 2, like what does good look like, in section 3, you were building out the team, right? In terms of your career there. In section 2, you said you developed a framework to understand, so what does a good leader look like? Do you remember like what was the type of framework? Because I think that's very interesting for our listeners to understand, wait, what kind of framework did you use, or how would you look and define what a good leader looks like?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a birth point of view, I cannot share the framework because of, I think that's their IP, but I can share my take on and my perspective on it.
Please do so. Please do so.
Well, what is, I mean, I think there are some high level things that everyone would look at, whether the right hiring coming from the right stages, whether they are coming from the right go-to-market fit so that they can ramp up. I think these are more like given, but apart from that, we were also I was like very intentionally looking at the retention rates. I'm very obsessed with retention rates, and now it would be great in the last maybe 6 to 7 years of any person, if that person would stay in one company more than 3 years, and then that company was performing, because like I think that's a very good indication of they know what good looks like, because the company was growing, and because they've been there over 2 years, I think it's also give a sense of their performance. And then the bonus would be like if they stay there and then they also promoted within the company. So I think that's also a very good sign that we look for. But I think these are very easy to screen on the paper. What does that really mean? And what I was really trying to build those framework on is to understand how intentional those people is, like how thoughtful they are they aware of what are the things that they spend their time at? Do they know whether they are what they spend on time at is really aligned with the their functional OKRs, like business outcomes. So just like really digging down, even though it could be a, let's say, like people leader role, I was like really digging down to understand, do they own the own business metrics, like go to market motions, etc. So that it also showed me their ability to zoom in and zoom out. So I guess that would be the another thing that is crucial. So just to, maybe to wrap up, I think it's more around how much of clarity of thinking they are,
Yep.
how structured and thoughtful they are, and how deep they can go, and also how much the ability that they can zoom in, that they understand the business and what they do is really linked to the business outcomes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clear. Very, very good. And I'm sure our listeners will be able to piece some kind of framework together. When you work with founders, and you still do, right? What do you see are common mistakes that they have when they hire their leadership team?
Yeah, I think couple of one of them is just, do they really spend enough time on assessing the candidate? Because I think for the founders who are hiring leadership level hires for the first time, it is very easy to get into the trap, because like leadership profiles by nature had lots of experience, so it's just like they have lots of MBA content, so it is very easy for them to sell a story. So it just, I guess at those moments it's on the founder whether they make sure that they identified what is really important for them, and whether they spend enough time to assess those areas. What I typically recommend for any leadership hire is that the founder needs to spare, maybe the founders collectively spare minimum 10 hours with the candidate before, to be able to say that, yeah,
10 hours?
Yeah. Is it?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And okay, so help me understand that from a practical point of view, right? Because often Earlybird, you would come in, you make the investment, then you would get in front of the founders, you would look at their leadership teams, like, hey, we need to hire, go, and see CMO, maybe a CFO, maybe a CPO, like any of those roles, right? Time is usually not it's not abundant, right? Like typically fast, we need to quickly scale, we got this money, we need to get to our next milestone. So how would you balance then speed and quality and spending 10 hours with a senior leader?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the candidates, one finalist candidate to spend the 10 hour with the company, it's just, if you will look at the stages, let's say they meet with like the founders, other exec teams, maybe a one board member, they'd conduct a case study, they had like 1 hour check-in on lunch or dinner with the founder, etc. So I guess altogether it end up to 10 hour.
Yep.
But in terms of time, I think that question is interesting, because this is literally always the pressure. Leadership hiring searches take minimum 2.5 to 3 months, and founders always at sometimes they're on fire that they need to make the hiring. I think that my role is to remind them two main things. Like the first thing is that for the leadership hire, they need to make the hiring based on conviction, not based on fear. If you make the hiring decision based on fear of, if I don't make the hire, I would lose a year. If I don't make the hire, like, the function would vary. But there's just like lots of, I would say, from the negative and fear teams, versus the conviction hire. It's more like, I trust this person to do the best job. I trust this person. I'm confident enough that this person will take us from here to there. So it's just, I guess, in terms of mindset, I would try to help them and coach them to look at from that angle. But then the other thing, I've always tried to be a bit of like devil advocate in a way that they make this hire without the conviction. For this leadership hire, they would have like, let's say at minimum 2 months notice period after they come on board, because that's the leadership hire. They would need minimum 4 months of ramping up onboarding, so it's 6 months. And then let's say you would need 2 to 3 months to figure out that this person would not work out. Now we're at 9 months, and then you'll need to get that go of that person. Now it's at 10 months, and then you'll all start from just like, you're literally at minimum, would you lose a year if you mishire a leadership team person. So it's just, I guess this is the angles that I'm trying to.
It's because I've been in it too many times. Luckily, as the founder of a recruitment business, been able to
Yeah.
avoid some of these pitfalls, but also I've been and I would say me and my co-founder, we've been subjective. I wouldn't say hiring out of fear, but yeah, maybe hiring out of fear because we desperately needed a talent director, and we gave someone the benefit of the doubt. Unfortunately, it didn't work out from a culture perspective, but it cost us 10 months. 10
Yeah.
months of our growth. And it was, again, such a hard lesson, right? To learn when you're in the weeds. And in the beginning, we were so excited. We got this covered. Oh, all our problems are going to be solved, right? And it was the opposite. It was the absolute opposite. Yeah.
Sorry to hear. I'm sorry for this experience, but also it was a very practical and tangible example of what I meant. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no, 100%. Hey, and what do you help founders with? So this is one part, right? Like on how to hire good leaders. Where else do you come into play in terms of, some of the challenges and some of the common pitfalls or some of the things that, you try to prevent them to make?
Yeah. I'm big fan of calendar audits. So I was auditing my calendar even now and back then. But it is pretty much always similar, like 70% of my time always go to help founders to build out their core leadership team. But if you double click on that, I think there are lots of different pillars in it, including helping them to scope the role, making sure that they calibrate the right seniority, making sure that they work with the right recruiter for that search, making sure that I connect them with top 2 or 3 calibration profiles for them to to calibrate what good looks like, and making sure that there is a good hiring process. Meaning, at times I sit on weekly update calls with the recruiters, look at the hiring funnel health, like how many people on the top of the funnel, how do we feel about the conversions, etc. So just like making sure that we have a very high performing process at place for the hiring, and at times helping them, making sure that they had a very solid assessment on those candidates. So I help on, and I also conduct assessments, interviews. I help them with the backchanneling. So it's just like you can think it as like very end to end, but it's very laser focused on leadership hire, or let's say not leadership, maybe but direct reports of the founder. It could be like very senior IC, from anywhere from senior IC to C level, as long as it reports directly to the main co-founder. So that's literally like 70% of my time, and then the remaining 30% is more around building support mechanism and insights. I'm also a coach, so I've also have a very like a good network of founder coaches. So depending on the challenge that founder faces, I connect them with the right founder coaches, with the right advisors, mentors, leveraging also compensation, ESOP related intels, sharing my playbooks, like because I've been building a lot also by myself in my like weekends, etc. So it's just like sharing those experience, etc. would be like the remaining 30%.
So now you've left Earlybird and you're working independently. What made you decide to make this move?
Yeah. So my mom and dad, they had been entrepreneur for decades. I think they literally, even before they have me, they become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So just I think that was something I've always admired them, and it was something on my heart.
Yeah.
But I think like I'm also realizing now is making that kind of bold moves take a lot of inner courage and time.
Yep.
So I think it was more around on the timing on both parties, right? Both for the firm and both for me to start that journey.
How is it?
I'm really enjoying it. I'm actually just I'm very proud about it. It was not all, but I mean, you're a founder yourself, so I think you would know it better than I do, because I think you're a founder over a decade now. But there are always ups and downs. But I think right now where I am at life, I think it's a great point for me to have it, because just like it has lots of fear involved, like self-doubt involved. There's lots of unknowns. So it's more around like how peaceful and how grounded you are to face all of those unknowns, and then the fear, and so I think from that angle, I understand that it's not for everyone for sure, but I'm really enjoying mine.
Hey, and Puren, it's interesting, right? Because you've coached founders, you've been on that advisory role. So what are you doing right now in terms of your work as a founder to like help you overcome those fears or some of the things that you run into?
Yeah. So I guess there are the practical ones, but they're more like spiritual ones. On the practical ones, I realize. So this is one of the things that I always advise founders, and now I try to apply it on my own practice. Is like being very intentional about your time and
Yeah.
making sure that you prioritize what's important. And now it's only me, and I am the main revenue channel, and I have, I have only 60 hours per week or like 70 at maximum. So how
Yeah.
am I going to spend that time to make sure that I'm doing something that I like? I have a good revenue stream that I like, and I'm also generating the high quality output that would make other people happy. So it's just like, I guess there is always that thought process around that I try to spend time on intentionally every week and ask those questions to myself.
Yeah.
So I think it's more like practical. I do calendar audits, etc. There's a dog there. So it's just,
Yes, I said dog walking. So good, so good. And I think my wife is going to record a podcast here soon. So we have a busy living room in terms of recordings.
that's nice.
Puren, you said something interesting. You mentioned at the beginning of the call as well. You mentioned calendar hygiene. What does that mean?
Yeah. So what I do is that literally starting from weekly basis and then do it on monthly basis and also on quarterly basis, very intentionally around look at my time, how I categorize it, like how much of my time goes to deep work, like shallow work, with the assessment interview, with the founders, with the VC partners. So it's just I've also categorized it based on the stakeholders, based on the work I do, whether it's an interview or like advisory call with the founder, just to have a bit of sense of like how does it look like and whether I'm happy with how it is today and how I would like to keep it in the next 2 quarters so that I would be intentional around my time. I find it very useful because that was also in my previous roles and also now when I advise and when I work very closely with the founders. I also always suggest like calendar audit to founders because like how they spend their time
Yeah, so
of
good.
30 people headcount company to 100 people headcount CEO, it changed a lot. So how aware they are where they spend their time and where they really need to spend their time so that they need to delegate or hire or it's just like, yeah, it creates lots of awareness. So I'm now applying that, to myself. Let's say.
So good. I can probably use some help there as we're rapidly scaling as well right now with Matcher and time is really I my agenda is just back to back full with meetings and I'm not sure if every meeting is as beneficial as they should be. What would you say to me, like where should I get started if you would make this practical, like what would you tell me how to look at this?
Yeah, if I were you, I would like start simple and look at your last 1 week and
Yeah.
to see the ways of how you would like to categorize it. Would you like to categorize your week of how you spend based on the clients, based on the stakeholders, based on the work you do, and then like literally write those down on Excel or table and then to
Yeah.
see it. And after that, you can do it for last 1 month, last 1 quarter, and then I think there is once you have all those, then we have follow-up question like which part do you like the most, which part generate the highest revenue, which part do you want to do the least, like which part you can delegate to team, and then
Yeah.
based on that, I think we can project the next quarter or next year pie chart so that you would know where you would like to evolve, and then we can build a plan to that get within those two main pie charts.
So good. So good. Okay. I'm gonna take your advice now. And the funny thing is now I need to find time to do it. Can you imagine? Now I need to find
That
time to
this
do
is
it.
a vicious
Yeah.
cycle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. My leadership coach, he taught me the framework to be on the balcony and to be in the dance. And what he means with that is by standing on the balcony, you overlook the playing field, right? The battlegrounds, the dance floor, however whatever metaphor resonates with you. But the important thing is that if you're able to zoom out, you're able to oversee the field and like what's important, what's not important. But you also need to be in the dance, right? You can't only live up, on Mount Everest all the time. You also need to do the work and be in the dance. And it's this balance of doing both. I remember he asked me, he said, Adriaan, how many times do you take a step back and just think about the business? I had to think about that question, and I realized that I barely take time to think about the business. And he said, the role of the CEO is not to be always in the dance, right? You, especially with a growing company, need to think ahead in terms of what's ahead. What do you need to plan for? What are some of the problems and challenges that you're going to be facing, but also what are the opportunities that are on the horizon to be able to plan ahead, right? And you do that by thinking. So I hear what you're saying. That's that really resonates with me. Puren, last question. From your move to now being independent, right? Like, what are some of the things that positively surprised you, and what are some of the things that you find harder or like you didn't expect?
What I find surprisingly more easy is to I really like getting to know new people, and when I feel like I'm bonded with that person, just it turns out to be something else as a business, or sometimes it's like a bigger part of my network that just like if I feel good about it at my heart, it just turned out to be something that is good. But if I worry too much on my brain, then sometimes it creates lots of anxiety and it doesn't really also serve the greater good. But what I realize, and which I do really like, what I think it is difficult is exactly this topic that we talk. Like my time becomes so valuable. Like literally every 1 hour before I start a specific task, I need to remind myself, like, is it the right way of spending my time really? So it's rather difficult as a founder, and now I understand why founders struggles and like they're always swamped and etc. I think now it's a for me this experience now enable me to have even more empathy towards founders in terms of how.
So good. Puren, thank you so much. How's Pompon doing?
Sleeping.
Oh my goodness. Dear listeners, Pompon, the 1 week-old kitty, is sleeping in Puren's lap. Super cute. Puren, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. Time flies when you're having fun. What is the best way for people to connect with you? Is that through LinkedIn?
Yes, please, through the LinkedIn, and I'm always open for any kind of talk that people think that they would need help. I really enjoyed this podcast and the time, Adriaan. You make me feel very comfortable and engaged. So yeah, thank you.
Great.